Hello, Mr. Buzz. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you, Alex?
I'm very good indeed. I'm very good and very excited to recommend a truly powerful film, impactful film this week,
Brilliant
called
film, yeah.
the Zone of Interest, which is in cinemas at the moment. Actually, quite hard to track down this film to see it. We managed to see it at Picture House Cinemas, I believe. So not all the cinemas are showing, but very well worth trying to find it and see it in cinemas. So it is Jonathan Glazer's latest, The Zone of Interest, and the story is pretty simple, but the delivery of that story is impressive. So the story just follows the Ross family, I would call it, which is Rudolf Ross was the commandant in charge of Auschwitz during World War II, between 1940s and 1943. And as many of our viewers probably know already, he's been very successful at his job, in basically delivering what was it called? The final solution, as called by Hitler, which was to exterminate at a rapid pace the captured Jews. We're going to watch a quick clip and then we're going to come back with some thoughts because there are plenty. Okay. So basically, we're literally the whole film, most of the film happens in this family home of Commandant Ross, like they like to call it, and his family. So he has three children and his wife Hedwig, played fantastically by Sandra. And the film happens in this family home, which is literally adjacent to the Auschwitz camp. So close to it that one of the walls of the property of their garden is the same wall on the other side where the camp is. And we never get to see behind this wall. We just follow their day-to-day, if we can call it normality, or trying to make a normal life in this completely contrast situation, whereby on one side of the wall you have a family with three children, with pool, with gardens, with flowers, with all of the ideal family life. And on this side of the wall is probably the worst atrocities in the history of humankind happening. And this person that is heading this family here on this side is the mastermind of this industrial factory of exterminating Jews, which is on the other side of the wall. And the way this is put together is just so impressive, but I'm going to let you go first, Buzz.
Yeah, so obviously I'd seen this film last night in the Picture House cinema in Cambridge, actually, and definitely the language to use. I wouldn't say it was a joy to watch, but it's very pragmatic. It's very in your face, and not to be too cringeworthy, but it's quite raw, But no, as you say, it follows Rudolf Hoss, which a name I'm not familiar with. I think we've all heard of Himmler, we've all heard of Goebbels, and obviously Hitler himself, but this guy was known for his efficiency in extermination, essentially, at the quickest rate possible, and then made a name for himself in that regard. So to see his life displayed in a family setting was quite chilling to the bone, really. And as you say, his wife, I think it's Hedwig, she's in a category of her own sort of evil. It's an evil that'll never kill anything, but it's this kind of almost ignorance to the horrors that's going on. You know, she either doesn't know, or if she does, she is willfully blind to it. And as you say, there's this kind of contrast to the whole film of, you know, you see this big concrete wall with this barbed wire, and the sound that goes on behind the wall, which I'll speak more of in a second. But on our side, shall we say the camera's side of things, it's like this beautiful topiary garden. You know, this garden that you'd see on the Chelsea Flower Show. You know, and they're being brought parcels with food around the world, and a big fur lavish coat is being brought to the wife Hedwig, and you know, everyone looks clean, and there's a big sense of cleanliness in the film. There's a few points where cleanliness is a factor in the scenes, because I think the Germans had an obsession with that. But what one thing I can really say about this film, and I'll pass it back to you now, Alex, is the sound in this film is just iconic, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this film is nominated for 5 Oscars this year. One of them, well, there are 2 important ones, Best Picture and Best International Film. But what it didn't surprise me, actually, is nominated for Best Sound. So the sound in this film is a character in itself, I think, because the very first 2 minutes of the film is black screen. You don't see anything, and you hear a lot, and you just get used to this rumble of the factory, this machine of war that is consistently, non-stop, 24/7, without stopping, exterminating human beings. And it's there all the time, and it's interlinked with the sounds of joy, of family life. And the very fact that you are forced to be used to this sound, you just like, you never stop counting. You know that there are people consistently dying while that sound is happening. And you get the shouts and the gunshots and the screams from prisoners and all of that, as these children are on the other side of the wall, are playing with the dog, or playing with the toys, or playing in the pool. Which was just like, this presentation contrast in one frame is just crushing. It's just like, you don't know if you're to be happy for those children or for the family life, or when you see in the distance the consistent plumes of smoke coming out and the darkness of what's behind that. It's like heaven and hell put next to each other. If
you know, the light and the sound in this film beats the actual picture, doesn't it? You know, the actual what you see on screen, because even lighting is used quite well. I think that you coined something at the end of the movie, which we'll get to. But there's a scene where the grandma visits them from far off, and she comes to Auschwitz to visit the family, and in the night she can't get to sleep. And she just goes to the window, and again, you don't see anything outside of the window, but you just see this like warm glow of fire in her face because of the chimneys, essentially, which are pumping out these plumes of smoke and the flames that might be coming from that. And again, as you say, there's this constant reminder that death is just an ongoing thing in these camps, and that's really fantastic to see on screen. It's very powerful, man. And also, what did you make to the this kind of like thumping soundtrack? I can't describe really what it was, but there was this odd kind of uncomfortable noise which would sound when there was scenes of the little girl placing food, for instance, in the mud for the Jews that would work there later on in the day. And what would you call it? It was like an infrared camera, would you call it, when it was a silhouette, white silhouette? And there's a couple of scenes like that.
There's a couple of scenes that I don't know. Yeah, I remember those now. There's a couple of scenes. I think the purpose of using that infrared, where you can just see the warmth of this girl, which is actually she's trying to hide apples, isn't it, for the prisoners?
For when the workers come the next day, the Jews,
And whenever we see her, is this infrared. Obviously, she does that at night, and then you just see. But whenever we see her, we see this infrared, and we just follow her around, hiding these apples in various different places. I think it just is trying to show the grim reality outside the Ross's reality of life, the colorful, because that's always gray and looks like it's ash. It's like that image is made of ash all the time, that infrared image. I found that because you follow her around and it's outside, and there's I think only one scene when she actually returns home, and as soon as the camera enters the home, is back to color and back to the warmth of when she speaks with her family. But when the camera sits outside and films into the home, and the mother comes out to pick up the clothes from the line because there's ash and coming outside, it's gray again. So whenever you're outside, you're in the harsh reality of war and the grayness and the tragedy of war. And inside is where the family, the safety of the family is, and there's a bit of color on that side. That's what I found of it. I think it's subjective to what you understand from it. But it was very, and the noise, that thumbing noise, that is just
you can't
scary.
describe it, can you? Could you, if you were going to describe a noise, how would you phrase it? Because it's more of a noise than a soundtrack, isn't it? And but it drums into the heart, doesn't it? When it's sounded on screen.
I don't. It's just like I almost felt like, I don't know, some gods cursing down at humans or something. I don't know how to describe it.
Good way of describing it.
It was very.
It's kind of almost like it's almost like a jungle kind of noise as well, isn't it? You know, it's a booming, thumping sound that just kind of the scenes that it took place in. It was kind of almost like a wake up to what's going on, you know, because you see this casualness of talking of the horrors, what's going on, and then you know, as you said, the screen was black at the start of the film, and then there's a sequence in the middle of the film where the screen just turns completely red, which is quite you know, it's quite distressing to the eye, and it's almost, I feel like these things are put in the film to just remind you, it's like a slap in the face reality of what's going on. So whether it's the thumping soundtrack or the red screen, you just washes you out of this family life to remember what's going on, guys. You know, this is 1943 and there's a death camp next door, you know.
And I think that scene, that red screen, is actually after the whole discussion about the new project of the camp, expanding it, and that new methodology that is like innovation of how to best use the property, but you know, innovation used for the worst purposes, basically the boosting the productivity of the machinery that they have, and that machinery, what does it do? It just kills people. And I think that scene when they sit at the table and they just discuss these blueprints, the generals and all of them, including Hoss, they just discuss this as if it's a new plan for a factory that is much more efficient. They're just so crushingly shocking that is like, wow, these smart people use their brain power to kill other human beings, and it's just like just crushing.
And even just after the film, reading up on some of the figures, it's crazy. You know, I think over 400,000 Hungarian Jews died, and towards the end of Hoff's kind of reign at Auschwitz, it was 10,000 a day, which is just staggering, isn't it? If you think about that in just a numbers game, it's crazy what was going on. You know.
Yeah, what a film. We could go on forever, but we'll have to end it there. The zone of interest. So we'll put the full review on our website as usual. Would love to hear your thoughts, our audience that come every week. Appreciate it, and would love to hear your thoughts about this film. It's a very important film, I think. Is up there with Schindler's List, I think, is in the way in how impactful it is. But until next week, Basil, I will leave you in peace.
Yeah, take care, Alex. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.